Hey everybody, this is Inga Cotton. Hi everybody, this is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and I wanted to talk about the new post today. So this time it's just me. I don't have any guests, but the topic of today's post is all about charter school applications, and the subtitle is "What I Wish I Knew." So I'm keeping it real, talking about mistakes that I made when I was applying for charter schools for my own kids. So I have two kids. My son is 13, my daughter is 11. So they're in 8th grade and 5th grade now. And let's see, when I was doing charter school applications for my kids, this was back in let's see, I guess fall of 2013, right? And so I remember the lottery was in January of 2014, and it wasn't until June of 2014 that my son got an offer of acceptance or enrollment offer at Great Hearts Monte Vista, and I was really excited about that. I remember I was sitting in the car in the parking lot at the McNick Art Museum because, well, I was homeschooling my son that year, and so we would go on, sort of little field trips and little adventures, to check out art and burn off some energy running around the grounds of the McNick. And I was in my car checking email on my phone, and there was the offer email from Great Hearts, and I think I cried a little bit. I was so happy. But I made some mistakes when I was applying, and under this, the conditions are a little different now, right? There's actually more schools to choose from now than there were back then. And I'll talk about the mistakes, but first I want to lay out kind of just advice about how to make this work. And this is based on my experience guiding a lot of parents who are members of the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook. And if you're not already a member, I encourage you to join. It's a welcoming, supportive place. You can ask your questions. There's been a lot of discussion lately about hey, we're on the waiting list and we got this number. What are our chances? And nobody really knows, but at least you can talk it through with people who are going through the same thing or maybe have experienced it before. So that's kind of what I'm drawing from is my own experience applying for charter schools. Although it's been a while since I went through it, and I've learned a lot since then. And I've been me and the team, and it really just crowdsourced, through the all the members of the group are helping each other. And you're welcome to join us and get help as well. So that's how I feel like I'm qualified to help you guys because I've talked to a lot of parents who have been through this. So, one basic thing is sort of okay, why are applications an issue, right? Because when I was growing up, and I graduated from high school here in San Antonio, there were no charter schools yet, and and for a long time there were only a few, but now it's a pretty significant portion of students in San Antonio go to charter schools, but it's not the same as just finding out, for your address, what is the neighborhood school that you're assigned to. So the technical term is open enrollment public charter schools. And so open enrollment means that it's not limited to just an attendance zone. Although they do have geographic boundaries, but they're so big. So for most of the charter schools in San Antonio, it's pretty much the entire metro area. If you live in an outlying area, you might want to double check, but pretty much anywhere in the San Antonio metro area, if you can drive, if you can get there, you can enroll. And they're called public charter schools because they are paid for by taxpayers. So students don't have to pay tuition to go to charter schools. And now they don't, there's no property tax bill that has a charter school on it, but the money comes from the state and it's allocated per student. And another aspect of them being open enrollment public schools is that they do take all kinds of students. So my son gets special education services. So all charter schools have to have special education programs. They all take students who are English language learners. And they all do have IEPs and 504s. So, if a student can go to a public school, they can go to a charter school. They don't have to take a test to get in. They don't have to fill out a lengthy application. It's a brief application, and that's what we're talking about today is charter school applications. But don't be afraid; they only take a few minutes to fill out because it's basically demographic information like where do you live, what's the child's age, what's the child's name, contact information for the parents or caregivers, and that's about it. It's really pretty short. So one of the challenges, I guess, sort of to wrap your head around, is that compared to a neighborhood public school, charter schools have a limited number of seats, and so what the process is, they open up for applications, and then a bunch of families apply, and if more families apply than there are seats at the school, then they have to hold a lottery, and then they randomly choose which students to give offers to, and then what order to put the students in on the waiting list. And that's different. Like at a neighborhood public school, either they have to find a seat for you, they maybe put up a portable building, or maybe they assign you to a different campus in the district. But they have to educate your kids somehow. But charter schools are designed to serve a specific number of students, and they can't go over that. So that's why they have the system of the open enrollment period, right? All the applications come in during then. Then the school runs a lottery, and they communicate with one set of kids who get an offer right away for the open seats, and then the other set of kids go on the waiting list in random order. So that's the basics of what it means, for an application to an open enrollment public charter school. One of the questions that comes up a lot is, what is the general application timeline? And it does vary depending on the school. And so that's why, as you do your school research, it's important to look at the particular dates for those schools so you don't miss them. But I can give you a sense of overall. And I think this is especially helpful if you have young children, like 3 or 4 years old, and you're trying to plan for when they enter kindergarten, and you don't want to miss any important dates. So the process basically starts about 12 months before your child would start school. Let's assume kindergarten. So about 12 months before, that's the kind of the research phase. And that's a lot of what we do for San Antonio Charter Moms. Is on the blog, we provide enrollment guide blog posts, but especially we have the guide page. And it's a list of charter schools in town. There's a map, and you can filter by grade level, by geographic location. And then we also have a mobile app that does a lot of the same things that the page does on the website. So that research page is really important. So I encourage you to use the guide on the website. There's in the blog post that there's a link to, we did a list of kind of research tools that you can use that helps you dive deeper. And of course, you're always welcome to ask questions in the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook. And the other members will help sort you through what the pros and cons are of different campuses. So if you do a good job during that research phase, you'll come out of it with kind of a wish list of schools that you want to learn more about, or where you think your kids might be happy to go. And then as you research those schools, it's good to make note of when the open enrollment periods are for those schools. And so at maybe 6 to 9 months before school would start, that's when you need to be watching for when the open enrollment periods might begin. So I can't generalize too much, except that to say that a very typical open enrollment period would run from early November to early to mid-February. That's probably the most common enrollment period. There's some schools that start as early as September taking applications. There's some schools that have closing deadlines as early as December. So Great Hearts and Basis tend to have their open enrollment periods on the early side. So if those are schools that you're interested in, just watch out, because they close open enrollment before the holidays. But really, January, where we are right now, is prime time. Most schools are having open enrollment right now. And like I said, some of them will close in January, some close in February, some close as late as April or June. But the important thing is to get application in during open enrollment. That gives your kids the best chance to get an offer because those applications are all treated the same in the lottery, whereas anything that's submitted after open enrollment ends gets added to the waiting list, and those are in chronological order. So it doesn't mean you won't get an offer, but it means you're going to come in after all the families who submitted during open enrollment. Okay, so when you get to about 3 to 6 months before school starts, that's when schools will be running lotteries and making offers or communicating waitlist information to families. And that's when you need to start making decisions. So one thing is that you actually can accept offers from more than one school while you're still making up your mind. But to be a good citizen, it's best to, once you've made up your mind, like decline the offers that you're not going to actually take as quickly as possible, because those schools need to offer those spots to students who are ready to come, right? So they will be calling up folks off the waiting list, and what happens is the names on the waiting list keep moving as people make offers, or if people accept one offer and then they decline an offer from another school. It just keeps moving. So we're kind of in this phase right now. There are families in the discussion group who, got a waitlist number, and they're wondering, does this mean my child might get an offer before school starts, or they might not? And one thing that's unusual about these times during the pandemic is that it just seems like there's a lot of movement, that people are finding that maybe what was a good fit for on-campus learning isn't as good a fit for distance learning, and so they're changing. There are families who have chosen homeschooling or private school, and that opens up seats at charter schools. There's just, everything's kind of in flux this year. And it also feels like people are taking a little bit longer to make up their minds because there's just so much uncertainty about what things will be like in fall of 2021. There's just a lot we don't know yet. So there's just a lot of movement this year and a lot of uncertainty. So we're just all trying to do the best we can with the information that we have. Okay, so that's the phase we're in now, sort of that 3 to 6 month phase. At like 0 to 3 months before school starts, that's over the summer, and that's really a time when hopefully by then, if you've applied to enough schools, the lotteries have run, and hopefully by then you have at least one offer from a school that you think is going to be a good fit for your kids. And once you've settled on what that school is, then you can go out and you can check the school supply list. You can, maybe if there's school uniforms, you can do some uniform shopping. You can see if there's like a kindergarten readiness camp, or maybe you can get connected with the parent organization at that school. And that's when you can really focus on getting your kid, ready to start school for back to school. So that's kind of the last phase. So next, I want to offer some tips about how to do a successful charter school application, and then we'll talk. The last segment, we'll talk about the mistakes that I made when I was applying for charter schools. So I think I mentioned that I touched on this earlier, but really applying during open enrollment is your best bet to actually get an offer and not get waitlisted, because all the applications that come in during open enrollment are randomized. And so somebody who applies on the first day of open enrollment or the last day of open enrollment have an equal chance of getting an offer. But any applications that come in after open enrollment, they get added below the list on compared to the people who applied during open enrollment. So that's why it's important to check the dates. And so we have those dates listed on the guide page, right? So which is the list of all the schools in town. We include that information in the enrollment guide blog post. And we also have like a weekly update blog post that comes out on Mondays. And it says, hey, there's what's happening this week. These are the schools that are having open enrollment now. These are the ones that have deadlines coming soon. And we also push that out on an email update once a week. So that's why keeping track of those deadlines. Oh yeah, and we post about it in the discussion group as well. So if you just stay engaged with SE Charter Moms, we will we will give you a heads up about those deadlines. Now, it's important to apply to more than one school, because there's just so many factors outside our control, right? So even if it's a brand new school that's starting out with lots of open seats, you just never know. Like if they get more applications than they have room for, they are going to have to run a waiting list. And if you can apply to 3, 4, or even 5 schools that any of which you think might be a good fit for your kids, you can always do more research later, and you can always decline an offer when you make up your mind about which one is the best fit. So, but to have the best chance of coming summer, having an offer enrollment from a school that's a good fit, don't apply to just one school. Apply to more than one. So it's one thing to keep in mind is what is the range of grade levels that campus serves, and that we have that information in the guide, the app, the enrollment guide blog posts. And so the best times to apply to a school are at either the beginning year, whether that's pre-K3, pre-K4, kindergarten, or at a transition year, right? So, typically in Texas, middle school starts in 6th grade, high school starts in 9th grade. So kindergarten, 6th grade, and 9th grade, there just tends to be more movement. Whatever the youngest grade is that school serves, those are all open seats except for employees, children, and siblings of current students. So, but there's going to be a lot more open seats in whatever that youngest grade is. So it's if let's say you're looking at a school that serves grades K through 12, your child's chances of getting in are much better at kindergarten than at 1st grade. But they improve again when you get to 6th grade or 9th grade, because families are moving around. They might have a different school in mind for middle school or high school for their kids. So when it comes time for lotteries and waiting lists, it's important to keep an eye on your email, or maybe answer that phone call from the unidentified number. It might be the school calling. So and as it gets closer to the school year starting, or even once the school year has started, sometimes schools want a pretty quick response when they make an offer of enrollment. During the school year, it might be a couple-day turnaround for you to accept the offer and round up those uniforms and books and get your kids to campus. So, just keep an eye on your email. Often schools have an application portal that you can log in and check the status. So even if the school hasn't contacted you, but you're wondering maybe if the waitlist number has improved, then you can log into the portal. And basically, if all this fails and you're trying to figure out what the status is for your child's application, call the helpline for enrollment, or call the front desk at the school, and they get questions like this all the time. They're used to it. So, they want to welcome families to schools. So go ahead and call them and ask, and just find out what's up. I wish there were a way to guarantee that there was enough seats for the kids who want them. It's what I've been working towards for years, is trying to grow the supply of high quality seats at schools of choice in San Antonio. There are organizations like Choose to Succeed that have made just a tremendous investment in growing the number of high quality seats in San Antonio. And in the blog, so we've got a link to a feature so you can learn more about Choose to Succeed and how to be an advocate for high quality schools in San Antonio. And that's a lot of what drives what I do. Is I want families to find schools that are the right fit for their kids. I want to expand the range of opportunities that are out there, because I think it's good for kids and it'll be good for our city. But along the way, I've learned a lot. And when I look back at the mistakes that I made back in 2013, 2014, when I was going through the application process, I think there must be angels looking out for me, the fact that it all worked out, because I definitely made some mistakes, but it did all work out. I'm really happy that both my kids are at Great Hearts, and my daughter was able to join as a younger sibling. So I only had to go through the stress of the lottery and the waiting list once. Once was enough. So let me talk about my mistakes. For one thing, I only applied to one school, right? So I've been making a big deal about how you should apply to more than one school. Well, I only applied to one school. But in my defense, there were many fewer choices back then. So I knew my son was going into 2nd grade, and I was really curious about BASIS, but BASIS back then only started at 5th grade. So we applied for Great Hearts, and I crossed my fingers. But in the meantime, I told a lot of my friends about Great Hearts, and they applied too. And they actually had an in-person lottery, which they don't very few schools do that anymore. But they had an in-person lottery. I remember it was in the bar shop room at Temple Bethel, and the randomization was happening on some servers in Arizona, but they were displaying the results on a projector, and they printed out lists, and I checked, and now a friend of mine got number one for kindergarten. I'm looking at you, Morgan. But no, my son got waitlisted for second grade, and I thought, darn it, I told too many people. But and then I talked to one of the staff members, and he said, actually, that's not a bad number. There's going to be movement on the list. Don't give up hope. So, oh, I see. Okay. Risa commented, yeah, she said only applied to Union Halls. Well, I said, I'm really glad that you got in too. I'm glad that it worked out. Because yeah, it's risky to only apply to one school. But if that's the one you have your heart set on, for us, the backup plan was to continue homeschooling. And but I was really hoping that I would get that offer before I ordered a whole bunch of curriculum for second grade. And it worked out. So I was fixing to order curriculum, but by June, like I said, I was sitting in the parking lot at the McNay Art Museum, checking my email on my phone, and sure enough, there was the enrollment offer. But no, I've learned a lot since then, but the circumstances in San Antonio have changed. So, I mean, if you have a first grader, second grader in San Antonio, there are quite a few high performing charter schools, ready to accept your kids. And there's just a lot more opportunities. And for one thing, back then we didn't have school fairs, right? So it was after I already had my kids enrolled, that's when like Families Empowered started coming and having school fairs. And actually on January 30th, there's the virtual school fair we're partnering with Families Empowered and CD Education Partners, Mind Shifted, with a group. And I'm really excited about that because, during the pandemic, it's really hard to research schools, but at the virtual school fair, you'll be able to like jump into Zoom rooms with different schools that you're interested in. And I think just the convenience of that and like the fact that like the schools are coming to you through your computer is a really great opportunity. So yep, there weren't tools like that back in 2013. So I don't feel too bad about applying to only one school, but it sure was a pain in the neck to be waitlisted. I used to complain about it a lot on Twitter, but and I'm not sorry because it sucked. But I am glad that my son got an offer and that it was before the school year started. So we were able to prepare and get the uniforms that fit and things like that. So one thing that I wish I had done better, I tried, but I wish I had done more research about what Great Hearts would be like what classical education meant, and what kind of special education services were out there that could help my son, just independent of just what's available at Great Hearts, but just in general, like how special education can help students grow. But that's just a learning process for me. Now, I was fortunate that Great Hearts invited me to visit Veritas, which is a campus in Phoenix. They were having a symposium there, and they knew about my work through San Antonio Charter Moms, and I did get to tour. I got to observe a kindergarten classroom, and at that time, my son was in kindergarten at our neighborhood public school, and my parents were kind of looking after him while I was in Phoenix. And I remember he had some really rough days while I was gone, and those are some tough times as a mother when you feel like your child is struggling and you're not there for them. But I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to see a Great Hearts campus in Arizona, because at that point there were no Great Hearts campuses in Texas yet. And that was my only chance to see it in action. And I remember feeling nervous, being like, I'm really impressed with the school. I don't know if my son's going to be happy here. You just don't know. But, and I guess sort of long story short, it was a rough start for my son in second grade, but I'm really glad we stuck with it because he had his classroom teacher was just so patient and could see his potential, and the structure of the school and just the amount of love that they showed him. We persevered, and he learned the ropes, learned, better how to behave in class. And now that he's in 8th grade, I can see that the hard work is paying off. So Yeah, it's choosing a school is a tough decision because it has to do with your hopes and your dreams for your children. It's a really significant decision, and as hard as I tried, in hindsight, there were things I didn't know about the classical education model, or about how special ed worked, and I've learned along the way, and that's why I try so hard to, like, write blog posts or have guest posts that help parents learn about this, for themselves. So, um, one thing that well, this is sort of more on the bright side. Like, the one thing that I was driven primarily by academics, to choose a school for my children. Like, I went to a school that had, rigorous academics where, like, they would really be challenged. There would be high expectations, and, like, they would learn, writing and speaking, and they get a well balanced liberal arts education. Um, and what I didn't realize was that how significant it would be to me to be part of the school community, and that having, um, this, like all of these, like, really, like, loving, committed, motivated parents, they're all dedicated to getting their kids the best education, and then like finding all these like-minded people, and we're kind of all pulling together, and just finding this community. Like, I mean, it's changed my life, and these friendships I've made are so important to me. And I never saw myself, like, being the leader of the parent organization, like, and just like the people I've gotten to know, and just what an amazing school community it is. And I in the blog post there's a link to, I got to address, at the so this is pre-COVID at the 2019 summit, which is when they bring together all the Great Heights teachers across the San Antonio region, and I got to speak to them, and it was a great honor to, like, thank them for what they do. And really, the teachers are heroes, and um, I miss being able to see them, and talk to them, and I look forward to, maybe they'll invite me back to a summit in the future after COVID, when it's safe to pack thousands of people into a room again. Um, but becoming part of that community, and all the friendships with other parents, with seeing these students grow up into such bright young men and women, it's really been an amazing experience. And that's it drives what I do. I want other families to, hopefully you won't make the same mistakes I did. Hopefully you'll, like, do what I say, not what I do, right? So, like, definitely apply to more than one school. But I hope you find a school where you feel like the what's happening on campus is reinforcing what you're doing in your home, and that you find other families, other parents and caregivers, who value the same things you do, and you're all pulling in the same direction, and you're all raising your children together, and you find teachers who believe in your kids and see their potential, and are just so dedicated to what they do. Because I think this work, what we do as parents and what the teachers are doing on campus, we're going to change San Antonio, and we're going to change the world. And it all starts with a charter school application. Who knew, right? Okay. Well, oh, Raisa, thank you. I'm glad that the page helps you, and I hope it helps more people in the future. So that's my advice about charter school applications. If you have questions, drop it in the comments. Come on over to the SC Charter Moms discussion group, and we're here to help. All right, take care, y'all. Be safe.